All right. Am I on? Yes. Okay. Well, hello. Thanks for being here. I am Vicent, and I'm going to talk today about analytics at Supercell. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, and then there will be some time for questions if you have them. I will start introducing a bit about the company, about myself, and then I will give you some examples of how we have used data recently to help the game team. And then, yeah, there will be time for questions. So probably you already know this. I think there was a colleague of mine speaking today before. So Supercell is a Finnish company. It has around more than 10 years, I think. We have more than 400 Supercellians working on different offices, and our company mission is to create games that last, basically, games that are played for as many people as possible for years and remembered forever. Okay? We have 5 live games that made it to this, to like succeeded on this. You might recognize some of them, like Heyday, Clash of Clans, Boom Beach, Clash Royale, and Brawl Stars. And they together have more than 5 billion downloads during their life. And each of them has crossed the $1 billion revenue. Special mention to Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, which together have crossed actually the $10 billion revenue. So it's as an IP, it's probably one of the biggest out there. Then about myself, just quickly introducing. So I'm from Spain. Maybe you noticed when I said analytics. I'm from Ibiza, actually. That's where I grew up, where I had fun, where I played games. Then I moved to Barcelona. That's where I learned about numbers, actually. That's where I studied and where I worked for probably 10 years or so, a bit less. And I worked in gaming there before coming to Helsinki 2 years ago, where now I'm working at Supercell in Clash Royale. It's probably one of the best games there. Don't tell the other Supercellians, but it's my favorite one. So, right, let's get into actually what does it mean analytics at Supercell? What do we actually do? First of all, I need to mention that we like to say that we are not a data-driven culture. Like, we like to say that this is a data-informed. So we use data to inform and help take decisions, but we are not letting the data tell us what to do exactly and follow it blindly. Making games, as you might know, is a creative endeavor, right? Like it's not about data, it's not about science, it's about creativity, it's about feelings, it's about the gameplay, the polish, the interactions. So we have usually this chart, which is a very scientific chart that I probably a data scientist draw, right? When you are creating a new game at the beginning, there is less weight that data has there. There is no science. It's a lot about art. But of course, as the time goes on and the games become more like a live service product, games that have been like for 3, 4, 5 years, then it's when our like the weight of analytics, or our impact into the product becomes higher and higher because we start to know more about the game. So as time goes by, it's less about, oh, what should we do new, and more about what our players want, what do they like, what do they enjoy, and that we can know from the data. And it's good to never forget that actually there is no secret KPI, there is no secret data that will tell you how successful something will be. So before we launch a new project, it's just belief. Even when we launch sometimes a new update, yes, we have some estimations, we can do some numbers, but we don't know how actually the community will receive it. So there is no data that will ever tell you like this is going to happen. So now you might be wondering, what do I exactly do? Yes? If I say that this is not about data, then what is my role? So first of all, we do collect data. We collect a lot of data. We collect like 5 to 10 terabytes of daily data. So every interaction of users in the game, when they play a battle, when they collect gold, when they log in, when they log out, all of that, we collect it. So of course, we need to like massage it. We need to work with it. Like it itself doesn't mean anything. Oh, a user collected 10 gold. That doesn't mean anything. We need to work on it and treat it in order to like get insights and actually make it something that is usable. And then with that info, now once we have the insights, then we can guide the team, right? We can inform them, as I said before. How do we do that? Well, the team usually have their beliefs, right? They play the game, they check the YouTube, they check the Reddit, they talk to you, to me, and they have beliefs about the game. So the data usually helps to like validate those beliefs that they have, like with actually like a real checkpoint. You know, like is this only me or is it actually happening in the game, like to more users? Is it how big is the scale of this? Like, is it this something that is happening to 10 users, to 100 users, to a million users? And that these two things, just like bouncing up the beliefs with the data, that helps them like take better decisions and helps them prioritize their work. So this is one of the things that we actually do there, which is like helping them align expectations and size and scale. And of course, the other thing we can do, the analytics people in general, not only at Supercell, but in general, is like challenge the team, right? Because usually the team is working on something and they are focused looking at this, right? Let's focus on the next update. Let's look at this feature. Let's look at this thing. And we, analytics, because we don't code, we don't draw, we can be looking at the other side and be like, okay, what are opportunities that we are not looking into? What kind of things we should also be working on that are not the ones that we are currently working on? And that help us to challenge the team and bring new ideas and bring new opportunities to the table. So I would say that this is our like three main things that we do, right? We take care of the data, and then we create information that we share to the team, and then we bring opportunities to them to the table. And how we do it? Well, we have like one or two dedicated analysts or engineers per project, and we're actually sitting with the team. So we are part of the team. So there is no centralized analytics team. We are with the actual project. In this case, I am with Clash Royale. I'm sitting with the Clash Royale team. And why is that important? Well, it's building rapport with the rest of the team, creating a nice communication like loop with them. I would say that's the most important thing. So having this like that they trust what you are telling about the game, that they trust what you're sharing, like the data. That's super important. So it's not only about like knowing how to crunch the data, but also how to communicate it and build this confidence and trust to the other teammates, right? And then, of course, it's very important to be also in sync with the release calendar and what they are worried on and when there's the next update. Because, of course, if you bring data the day before an update, no one will care because they are so focused with the update, they are so focused with the release that they will be like, oh yeah, thanks for sharing. Next, I need to finish this, right? So getting the cadence of the work with them, it's also super important for the analytics role. And finally, of course, even though we are like data analysts, it's about the game, right? So we need to also like understand the game, play the game, and sometimes the data tells you something, but then you play the game and you see another thing. So knowing a lot about the game helps you do like a lot better work. I had a small picture there of actually more or less like all the roles that we support, right? So we have like business people, game designers, player support, marketing, like, and we kind of act as a glue in between all of these functions, bringing data and information and helping them communicate better. All right, so let's see some examples of recently how I have helped the team. Well, I hope I have helped the team. Before that, just 30 seconds about the game. You might know it, but otherwise, I will quickly explain it. Clash Royale, it's a real-time strategy game where users play in real time 3-minute battles. And they deploy cards to the battlefield, and the cards go alone to fight the other cards, and they try to take the enemy tower. And then when users win, they get a reward. They get a chest sometimes they get other stuff. And then they wait for the chest to open, and they get more cards. They upgrade the cards, and they repeat. So it's like this cycle, wait and repeat. I battle, I collect rewards, I upgrade my cards, I go to battle again. Yes, and as they upgrade more cars and then win more battles, then they progress through the arenas or like through the path of legends, we call it, and then they unlock new content. So basically, they are in this loop for years. So now that you know briefly, like super quick about the game, now I'm going to show you some examples. So this is a real life example. So the game designer has a hunch, right? They have an intuition about something's going on in the game. Usually it starts like this. So this is a game, a real game from the pro players, so one of the esports. And then game designer goes like, oh, the game starts at 3 minutes, right? And it's been 30 seconds and none of the users, of the players, have deployed any card, right? And then they start thinking, maybe they're waiting for the last minute where they have double mana and the cards go faster. Or maybe, well, maybe they're just waiting. That's weird. But he's like, oh, this is very boring, of course, to watch, right? And even if you're the player and you're just waiting, it's very boring. We have a problem. And now the next thing, we should fix it. That's usually the train of thought of a game designer, right? Observation, hypothesis. We should fix it. And then I go like, wait a minute. Like, is this actually a problem that we have in the game? Is this actually, or just some anecdote, right? So then we check, is this the distribution of battles? So basically it's of all the battles that happened in the game, at which second did they start? And then the different lines is the different arenas. And then as you can see, most of the battles actually happen where the users deploy their cards between, let's say, 4 seconds and 12 seconds. So usually, yes, you're waiting for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your card or the opponent deploys a card. So between 4 and 12. And if you see in the corner there, you can see that actually users waiting for more than 20 seconds, battles, it's just 2% of battles, and more than a minute is like 0.09. So yes, this is happening, but it's not happening a lot. It's happening in like very specific situations. Those were pro players, and for pro players, information is more valuable than actual time in the game. So that's why they were waiting. It's a very specific case. It's a very nuanced case, and we shouldn't act on it, or at least if we act, it should be only for that case, not for the whole game. Otherwise, we risk to make a change for those users that will affect everyone. So yes, with 5 minutes of data, it wasn't 5 minutes, but it looks cool. We avoided the designer to go on this like train of thought and start like solving a non-problem that I call it, right? There is no problem. We avoided he and gathering other team members to just discuss about this, start implementing something. So data saves the day here. But sometimes it is us also who can have these kind of observations and train of thought, right? So in this case, it was me. This is my game. And I noticed that a lot of days I don't have chests waiting to be opened, right? This is something that I noticed. And that reduces my motivation to play when there is nothing waiting for me to open. Yeah, I go to the game because it's fun, but I don't don't have a reward waiting for me. And I go, well, following a similar train of thought, right? This feels bad. There seems that there could be an opportunity here. We might have a problem. We should fix it. But now, as you know, before jumping to this, what do? Oh, we do a data check. So do we actually have a problem? Well, what I check is that the average user, that's me, has more than one chest in their slots in about 60% of the days. So I'm actually not alone. It's happening quite often. So on 40% of the days, they don't have any chest like me. So it seems that there is like a problem or an opportunity here to be had, but is there actually an opportunity? And then usually we check two of the metrics, like that applies to game, but it also applies to any app, which is engagement and monetization, right? It's either users play more or less, or they spend more or less money. And I checked, and actually on the engagement, yes, there is a 5% less engagement on the following day retention. So that's like the amount of users that connect on consecutive days for users who don't have chests like me. So, okay, there seems to be an opportunity here. And then in terms of monetization, actually, there is no difference on monetization. And there is a slight lower usage of chest keys, which allow you to open a chest immediately. So, yes, there seems to be an opportunity, but it is a small opportunity. But well, now we know. And of course, we cannot measure the feeling of seeing the chest slots. That's something that we will never be able to measure. Like, how does it feel to look at your screen and see that you don't have chests waiting to be opened? Probably it feels bad, but at least it's not affecting like highly the metrics. So now the team knows this information, um, and now it's on a prioritization list. So we might act on it because there is an opportunity. It's a small opportunity, but now we know it. So before jumping into solving something, now we know more or less what to expect if we actually solve it. And finally, one latest example, I wanted to go back to the company mission. And when I joined the company, uh, and I saw the mission, I thought actually like, well, what does it actually mean for me as a data scientist, right? How can I affect this with data, right? And I was trying to understand, okay, the part that says about like we make games that are played for many people, that's probably something I cannot do anything about it. That's probably more on the artists, on the game developers, right? The game needs to be fun, accessible, polished. But then what about the part where it says the games need to be played for years and remembered forever? And I thought, well, this happens when the game is like has new and meaningful content on a regular basis, right? So you can also think about Netflix. Like you are engaged when you get like new content in a regular basis. It happens with the games as well. So users keep engaged if they get new stuff often. But then the keyword meaningful, what it actually means, it depends on where the user is in the game, right? So what is meaningful for me as a casual player is not the same what is meaningful for that pro player that was waiting to deploy the cars, and it might not be the same for someone who just plays on Sundays, you know? So what is meaningful actually depends on the game, like the user journey, right? The user journey goes something like this, right? We get a new user, an install, it could even you could even argue that it starts earlier than that, like when a user sees an ad or when they interact with a video of Clash Royale or when I talk about it today and maybe you install the game. So it actually starts earlier than that. But let's say it starts here. For me, it starts here. We get a new user and then, well, the new user starts playing the game, starts progressing, and then he can become a more engaged user. He can pay money. Maybe she leaves the game, churned. But maybe then they come back to the game and they become re-engaged users. Maybe they pay and then they leave the game. That's the hardest thing for me to understand. Then they come back after some years. Maybe then they get super engaged on the game. They reach the end. They become maxed users. And those are some users that we follow a lot. The users that are at the end of the game that maxed everything. Usually those users never leave the game. They just become inactive. So around this like user journey, there is a lot of questions actually that the team asks, right? Why are users leaving the game? Well, this is very broad. It's very hard to answer. I don't know. Are re-engaged users understanding that the game after the time off? Like if you go to Clash of Clans or Clash Royale after 3 years, the game has changed a lot. Do you know what's going on? Do they know what's going on? Should we add a new level yet? Are our maxed users starting to get bored of being maxed? All these questions, I would say, are the questions where we spend most of the time. So the examples I gave you were very concrete, very specific about, okay, we have this doubt. Can we check the data? Yes, we can. But understanding this whole map, that's where we spend most of our time. And it's actually like very complex because it's super fluid. Like users come, users go, users spend money. They spend money for 6 months in a row and then they stop spending money. It's really, really tricky to know all the dynamics that are going on in the game. We have a lot of players, and just by the law of large numbers, there's always a subgroup of users that is doing something weird. So trying to understand this map is actually my biggest task, and trying to then communicate it to the team in a way that they will understand it. I would say that's our main thing that we do. So just to summarize, analytics at Supercell is about, yes, so keeping the data usable and understandable, following up the intuition of the designers, of the analysts, of the developers, of anyone who plays the game and knows what can be happening and has questions, informing better the decision making, right, by bringing expectations, prioritizations, scale, And of course, identifying opportunities where others are not looking. But ultimately, it's about understanding how can we serve all of our players, all of them, regardless of where they are in their journey with the game, in their relationship with the game. How can we serve them for years and years to come? Thank you. Now I think there is some time for questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Vicent, for the excellent
Thanks.
presentation. Even I could understand it.
Yes, that's good.
My favorite game is Boom Beach, by the way. Now I
Oh.
play this Boom Beach Frontlines, but this
Nice.
was my favorite game. What skills are, what are the most important skills for a data analyst at Supercell?
Yes. SQL is of course a must. I would say for any data role anywhere, SQL. Then we like to have people that also knows a bit of scripting, R, Python, like something that will help you crunch the data better, because just SQL will be only for like retrieving the data from the database. So then you will need to like do charts, maybe pivot the data, and of course communication and understanding of the game. I would say that's also like very, very important. If you are a very good data analyst but then you're not able to bring it to the team, then something will fail there in between.
Um, one or two data analysts per project. I think the question is how many data analysts per project you have?
Yes, so we would like to have two per project. It's not where we are right now, but yeah, I would say one or two per project is the number we have.
And the like say question is why not more?
um, there is at some point there is not so the teams are small in Supercell in general, so there is not more that we can actually act on. So there is also a constraint in the team size, that even if we produce like a huge amount of insights, then the team needs time to actually develop them. So
What are the main KPIs the data team works with?
um, as I said, engagement and monetization. So for engagement, usually we check at retention, monthly retention. So how many users month over month are retaining, for example. And then in monetization, we usually look at how many users convert, because in the end, that's the ultimately engaged user, right? Someone who is actually willing to spend money. And then we usually break those into where they are in the journey. So is it the user level 5, user level 10, or user level 15? So usually it's more about like this engagement and monetization, and we usually break it by where they are in the game. That's the main thing. There's a
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
Which type of data collection you're using? Oh, which type of data collection you're using? Like, I'm studying human-computer interactions, and right now I'm studying like data collection.
Uh-huh.
And which type you're using?
We collect the directly from the app.
Okay.
So, and we collect most of the game interactions. Not every tap, of course, because that would be a lot. But when users do actions that we find relevant to then analyze, um, actions that then will give us some information that we will need to change. For example, as I said, when the users earn resources or spend resources in the game, when they play battles, or like when they upgrade cars. So anything that is like meaningful about the game, that then we can maybe rebalance or change or update, that we collect, and the rest we don't. Yes, that's more on the community side. Then we talk also directly to some of the pro players, some of the content creators, but that we don't analyze it from a data point of view. It's more from like a community point of view and like feedback. And so we don't do data collection on like let's say Twitter or Reddit or this kind of stuff. No, it's more like personal, but not automatized.
So how do you balance between like engagement and monetization? For example, in Crash Rock,
Yes.
like, there was draft battle, it was way more engaging, at least
Mhm.
for me.
Yes.
But later updates doesn't have that draft battle, maybe because of monetization.
Yeah.
How do you balance?
Yes. we want our games to be played like forever, right? And have as many users as possible. So I would say we skew more to engagement than to monetization. So we prefer to have a lot of users and retaining, and that they are like month over month retaining, than actually go and try to monetize a lot out of them, because that might put some people off. So I would say engagement has a bit more weight than monetization. Monetization is more like a consequence of a lot of like high engagement. Yes.
I have a question here.
Yes.
Do you only collect data from users, or do you already collect data from your own production time? Do you only join the project when a game is already released, basically? Or do you already have KPIs that you measure during the production?
Yes. Historically, we would join the game when the game is live, and that's something we're trying to change actually, and start to join a bit earlier, even before the game launches, to help, as I was saying, like build a trust with the team, and also to start collecting some data on the internal playables that we do. It's like, can we find something there that can tell us a bit if the game is going to be successful or not? Like, so we are now trying to change it, and that's one of the reasons that we would actually like to have more people is in the analytics team in general, is to be able to serve the new games as well, like better, because right now we're more focused on the live games.
Is it possible to successfully balance between being really customer oriented and still thinking of the business profits? And what metrics can help to consider both?
Yes, I think it is possible to balance, and there is many examples out there in the game industry. I think Supercell is one of those. And the metrics that help you balance that, as I said, is more about like the amount of highly engaged users that you have, and then of those, which amount will actually spend. And then the way you can balance that is how much actually they spend. So we don't want one person to spend, I don't know, $1 million. I don't think they would be able to do it in the game, but we would prefer 1 million people spending $1, right? So you can actually balance that, and aiming for having highly engaged users that will end up paying, even if it's a small amount. That's better for us than having like this. We call it like whales, or like it's a term that is known.
How can the data team tell if a data-oriented change in the game was successful? For how long do you guys monitor a specific change?
That's a that's a good question, because our updates usually are very big. We do usually one update per quarter, and they have a lot of stuff. So it's actually very hard to isolate the results. But I would say after 2 or 3 months, when the hype goes a bit down of the update, usually the week of the update, the month of the update, all the metrics go crazy. But after 2 or 3 months, you can start actually seeing which is the baseline. Are you back in the baseline that you were before the update, or are you in a higher baseline? So is your engagement back to the normal levels, or it stayed higher? Is your monetization back to the normal levels, or it stayed higher? So that's a bit how we do it.
What would be a typical day of a data analyst?
A typical day, basically, if nothing is going on, you're preparing for the next big thing, right? So you're preparing the data. Maybe there's some part of the game that you never analyzed. For example, I don't know, in Clash Royales, I know there are parts that I've never analyzed. So maybe on a typical day, if there's nothing urgent, or if there's no new release, nothing weird going on, then maybe I would start preparing that. Maybe start to look into that, see if we need to add new telemetry, if we need to add new collection of data. When there's a week like this week where we have an update, then I'm first making sure that we have everything ready for the update, that we're collecting all the data that we need, and then after the update, checking that like nothing is wrong, like that there is no bugs, that there is no technical crashes, that the users are able to complete the tutorial, that they are able to log in. So I would say that's the 2 typical days. It varies a lot. It's a very fluid and different day to day. Yeah.
Thank you, Vicent. I hope that you can stay a little bit. So
Yes,
if you have
yes.
questions, actually, we are going to ask you to go to the Supercell stand. So
Okay.
if you have questions, please. And Vicent, I'll talk to you because we got a lot of questions from the online. Maybe
Okay.
we can
Yeah, we
discuss
can.
how to get those answered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Thanks. Thanks.